Imagine this: a quaint old hotel in the small town of Blanchester, Ohio. It's the late 1800s, and a mysterious rocking chair arrives at the Bindley Hotel. Delivered by a silent stranger, the chair seems like any other, plain, wooden, and inviting. But when a weary traveler named William Rockhill takes a seat, something sinister awakens. As he rocks back and forth, a sudden, sharp pain grips his chest. His eyes widen in terror as he gasps for breath. Moments later, he falls dead, clutching the chair's armrests. Little did anyone know this was just the beginning of a series of horrifying events that would haunt the town for years to come. Welcome to the tale of the haunted chair of Blanchester, where an innocent piece of furniture turned into a harbinger of doom. It was a cold, dreary autumn day when the mysterious rocking chair arrived at the Bindley Hotel. The air was crisp, and the leaves crunched underfoot as a silent, cloaked figure unloaded the chair from a weathered cart. The hotel's owner, Edward Hawke, watched from the front steps. Intrigued by the unusual delivery, the stranger said nothing, simply nodding and tipping his hat before disappearing into the mist. Well, this will add a bit of charm to the lobby. Guests love a good rocking chair. By the fire. Edward muttered to himself, a hint of satisfaction in his voice. Edward, a man of practicality, saw the chair as a quaint addition to his establishment. He placed it in a cozy corner of the lobby, near the large stone fireplace, where its gentle creaking would soon become a familiar sound. Guests initially admired its craftsmanship, the polished wood, the intricate carvings, the smooth, inviting rock of its curved legs. One guest examined the chair closely, remarking, "This is quite a piece, Edward. Where did you find it?" "A mysterious fellow dropped it off this morning. Didn't say much, just left it here," Edward replied with a smile. Little did Edward know, this seemingly ordinary piece of furniture was about to unleash a wave of terror. The chair sat quietly, its true nature hidden beneath a veneer of normalcy. Days passed, and the chair became a favored spot for guests seeking a moment of rest. But then came the first sign of trouble. A faint, almost imperceptible chill seemed to emanate from the chair. The fire in the hearth would flicker and dim whenever someone sat in it, as if an invisible presence was drawing the warmth away. Edward brushed off these odd occurrences, attributing them to drafts and imagination. Another guest, shivering as they sat by the fire, commented, "Did you feel that? It's colder here, right by the chair." "Just a draft, I'm sure. These old buildings are full of them." Edward laughed nervously, trying to dismiss the growing unease. Despite his dismissals, unease began to creep into the hotel's atmosphere. And as more guests took their turn in the chair, the strange phenomena grew more pronounced, setting the stage for the horrors that were yet to come. Edward's quaint addition was no longer just a charming piece of furniture. It was a ticking time bomb, waiting to reveal its dark secret. Little did Edward know, this seemingly ordinary piece of furniture was about to unleash a wave of terror. Days passed, and the chair became a favored spot for guests seeking a moment of rest. One evening, a weary traveler named William Rockhill checked into the Bindley Hotel. After a long journey, he was eager to relax. Spotting the inviting rocking chair near the fireplace, he decided to take a seat. William sighed with relief. Finally, some rest. As he rocked back and forth, a sudden sharp pain gripped his chest. His face contorted with agony as he gasped for breath. The other guests in the lobby watched in horror as William clutched his chest, his eyes wide with terror. Within moments, he collapsed, lifeless, onto the floor. Panic spread through the lobby. Edward rushed over, but it was too late. William Rockhill was dead. "Someone call for help, quickly," Edward shouted, his voice filled with urgency. The news of the sudden death spread quickly, leaving the guests and staff in a state of shock. The local doctor arrived, confirming what everyone already suspected. William had suffered a fatal heart attack, but there was something unsettling about the whole situation. Why had it happened so suddenly, and why did it seem to be connected to the chair? Days turned into weeks, and the memory of William's death lingered. Some guests began to avoid the chair, sensing an eerie presence around it. But others, curious and skeptical, couldn't resist the temptation to sit in it. One guest whispered to another, "Do you think it's cursed?" "Nonsense, it's just a coincidence," the other guest replied nervously. Despite the reassurances, a shadow of fear began to loom over the Bindley Hotel. Edward, determined to keep his business running, tried to dismiss the incident as a tragic accident, but deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong with the chair. As more strange incidents began to occur, It became clear that William Rockhill's death was just the beginning. The chair had claimed its first victim, and its dark, sinister power was only growing stronger, ready to unleash more horror on those who dared to cross its path. As weeks turned into months, the chair's ominous presence became more pronounced. The air around it seemed colder, and the fireplace's warm glow dimmed whenever someone sat in it. Whispers of unease spread among the guests and staff, yet Edward Hawke still clung to his skepticism. But then, the accidents began. One evening, a guest named Thomas Miller sat in the chair, engrossed in a book. Without warning, an invisible force seemed to shove him violently, sending him crashing to the floor. His arm twisted awkwardly and a sharp pain shot through him. Thomas groaned. "Ah, my arm!" "What just happened?" The other guests rushed to help, their faces pale with fear and confusion. The doctor, who had become a frequent visitor due to the strange occurrences, examined Thomas. "It's a bad fracture. How did you fall?" the doctor asked, concerned. "I don't know. It felt like something pushed me," Thomas replied, bewildered. The staff tried to dismiss it as an accident, but the guests weren't so easily convinced. Soon after, another guest, a young child named Emily, was found trapped under the chair, gasping for breath. Her mother, frantic, pulled her out just in time. "Emily, are you okay? What happened?" her mother sobbed. "The chair. It moved on its own," Emily said, terrified. The incidents grew more frequent and more violent. A housekeeper, while cleaning, was forcefully thrown out of the chair, her head striking the edge of a table. Blood pooled on the floor as she lost consciousness. "Help me," she weakly whispered. Fear spread like wildfire. The chair, once a quaint addition to the lobby, was now a source of terror. Guests avoided it and the staff whispered about the hoodoo chair, convinced it was cursed. Edward Hawke could no longer ignore the growing dread that surrounded his beloved hotel. "I don't understand. Why is this happening? It's just a chair," Edward said, distressed. But deep down, he knew there was something far more sinister at play. The chair had claimed its victims, and its dark influence was spreading. The Bindley Hotel, once a place of warmth and welcome, was now overshadowed by fear. The guests came less frequently, and the staff was on edge, always watching the cursed chair, waiting for the next accident to happen. The accidents were only the beginning. The chair's true nature was far more malevolent, and it wasn't done with the Bindley Hotel yet. The dark forces within it were just getting started, and Edward Hawke was about to learn that some curses cannot be easily broken. With each passing day, the chair's malevolent influence grew stronger. The accidents had left everyone in the Bindley Hotel on edge. Edward Hawke, desperate to save his business and protect his guests, decided it was time to act. He couldn't ignore the mounting evidence that the chair was cursed. One stormy night, Edward gathered the courage to move the chair to the attic. As he approached, an icy chill filled the air, and the fire in the hearth flickered and died. His hands shook as he grasped the chair, determined to rid his hotel of its dark presence. "This ends now," Edward muttered to himself, a hint of determination in his voice. But as soon as he lifted the chair, an unseen force knocked him to the ground. He lay there, stunned, as pain shot through his shoulder. The chair remained unmoved, mocking his efforts. "What is this? What kind of curse is this?" Edward groaned, clutching his shoulder in pain. Attempts to destroy the chair proved equally futile. When Edward tried to smash it with an axe, the blade flew off the handle, striking his shoulder. No one dared to help, paralyzed by fear. "I can't believe it. It's indestructible," Edward said in disbelief, his voice trembling with fear and frustration. Desperation led Edward to paint a white cross on the chair, hoping to weaken its power. For a brief moment, it seemed to work. The chair was moved to the porch, but the respite was short-lived. The chair's wrath intensified. Guests tripped and fell, their hair caught in the chair's arms. It tipped over backwards, smashing heads against the wall, and ejected anyone who dared sit in it. At night it moved on its own, found in different places each morning. "Didn't we leave the chair in the corner last night? How did it get here?" a guest asked nervously. "This place is haunted. We need to leave," another guest replied, shaking with fear. The final straw came when a fire broke out in the attic. Smoke filled the hotel, and the chair was found untouched amidst the charred ruins. Soon after, a tornado tore the roof off the building, leaving Edward in despair. "I've had enough. This chair is cursed. I need to get out of here," Edward said, his voice filled with defeat. Edward sold the hotel and left town, but the curse lingered. Fires, accidents, and financial troubles plagued the Bindley Hotel until it finally closed its doors. The chair, its dark history shrouded in mystery, vanished. Some say it still exists, hidden away, waiting for its next victim. The chair's wrath had consumed the Bindley Hotel, leaving behind a trail of terror and destruction. Its story became a local legend, a chilling reminder of the power of the unseen and the dangers of the cursed. Despite Edward Hawke's departure and the closing of the Bindley Hotel, the curse of the haunted chair was far from over. News of the chair's malevolent influence had spread, capturing the curiosity of paranormal enthusiasts and skeptics alike. The chair, once a fixture in the hotel's lobby, now became an object of dark fascination. One such enthusiast was Professor Harold Bennett, a well-known investigator of the supernatural. Determined to uncover the truth behind the cursed chair, he tracked it down to an antique shop on the outskirts of town. The shopkeeper, eager to rid himself of the ominous item, gladly sold it to Bennett. "This is it, the infamous hoodoo chair. Let's see what secrets you hold," Bennett murmured to himself as he examined the chair. Bennett brought the chair back to his home, setting up cameras and recording equipment to document any supernatural occurrences. He was determined to prove that the chair's curse was real, but he had no idea what he was inviting into his life. That night, as Bennett sat in the chair, a cold shiver ran down his spine. The room grew colder, and the lights flickered ominously. He felt an unseen force pressing down on him, making it hard to breathe. What is this?" Bennett struggled to speak, panic rising in his chest. Bennett's dog, usually calm and friendly, began to growl and bark at the chair, its hackles raised. The professor tried to rise, but the force held him in place. Panic set in as he realized he was not alone. The next morning, Bennett's assistant found him slumped in the chair, barely conscious. His face was pale, and his eyes were filled with terror. "Professor, are you okay?" the assistant asked, shaking Bennett gently. "The chair. It's cursed. We have to get rid of it," Bennett replied weakly, his voice trembling. Despite Bennett's warnings, the curse continued to spread. A young couple, intrigued by the professor's research, decided to take the chair into their home, thinking it would make a unique conversation piece. But soon after its arrival, strange things began to happen. The couple's once happy home became a place of fear. Objects moved on their own, doors slammed shut, and eerie whispers echoed through the halls. The husband, skeptical at first, soon became a believer when he was thrown out of the chair, leaving him with a broken arm. "We need to get rid of this chair, it's evil," the husband said, wincing in pain. "I told you, we should have listened to the professor," the wife cried, tears streaming down her face. The couple decided to burn the chair, hoping to end the curse once and for all. But as the flames consumed it, the air was filled with a chilling scream, and the fire quickly spread to their house. They escaped with their lives, but their home was destroyed. The curse of the haunted chair continued to spread, leaving a trail of fear and destruction. It became a legend, a cautionary tale of the dangers of meddling with the unknown. And somewhere, in the shadows, the spirit that haunted the chair waited, ready to strike again. The cursed chair's legacy of terror continued unabated, its dark influence spreading to all who dared to possess it. Edward Hawke, now far from Blanchester, couldn't escape the chair's shadow. News of its latest horrors reached him, bringing with it a sense of dread and responsibility. Edward decided to return to Blanchester, determined to put an end to the curse once and for all. He found the chair in the ruins of the Bindley Hotel, now a desolate and eerie sight. The once grand building stood as a ghostly reminder of the chair's malevolent power. "This has to end. I won't let it ruin any more lives," Edward muttered to himself, steeling his resolve. With the help of a local priest, Father Michael, Edward planned a ritual to exorcise the evil from the chair. They gathered in the hotel's remains under the cover of night. The atmosphere was thick with tension and fear, the air filled with the smell of damp wood and decay. "We must stay strong. Evil feeds on our fear," Father Michael said firmly, his voice a beacon of calm. As they began the ritual, the chair seemed to come alive. The temperature plummeted, and a fierce wind whipped through the broken windows. Shadows danced on the walls, and an unearthly wail echoed through the empty halls. "By the power of light we banish you, dark spirit. Leave this place and trouble us no more," Edward chanted, his voice growing stronger with each word. The chair rocked violently as if fighting back. Edward and Father Michael continued their chants, their voices rising above the growing cacophony. The air crackled with energy, and a blinding light filled the room. "Begone, spirit! In the name of the holy, leave this world!" Father Michael shouted, his voice commanding and unyielding. With a final thunderous crash, the chair splintered into pieces, releasing a dark, swirling mist that dissipated into the night. The wind ceased and an eerie silence fell over the ruins. Edward and Father Michael stood, exhausted but victorious. "Is it over? Have we finally freed ourselves?" Edward asked, breathing heavily, hope mingling with disbelief. "The spirit is gone, the curse is broken." Father Michael nodded, a weary smile on his face. Relief washed over Edward. The chair's hold was finally broken, its dark power extinguished. The Bindley Hotel could now rest in peace, and Edward could move on, free from the shadow that had haunted him for so long. "Thank you, Father. This nightmare is finally over." Edward sighed, his voice filled with gratitude and relief. Word of the exorcism spread quickly, bringing a sense of closure to the townspeople of Blanchester. The cursed chair was no more, its evil legacy reduced to mere splinters and memories. But the tale of the haunted chair lived on, a chilling reminder of the unseen forces that lurk in the shadows, waiting for the unsuspecting to cross their path. The final straw had been drawn, and the nightmare was finally over. The Bindley Hotel and its curse-eater became a part of local legend, a story told to warn others of the dangers of meddling with the unknown. With the chair's destruction and the exorcism complete, the Bindley Hotel finally found peace. The townspeople of Blanchester breathed a collective sigh of relief, believing the nightmare was over. But some stories have a way of lingering, like a shadow that refuses to fade. Years later, the remains of the Bindley Hotel were cleared away, making room for a new development. Construction workers found remnants of the cursed chair among the rubble. Intrigued by the local legend, one of them, Jack, decided to keep a piece of the wood as a souvenir. "Imagine the stories this could tell. Maybe I'll make something out of it," Jack murmured, holding the wood with a mix of curiosity and excitement. Unbeknownst to Jack, the dark spirit that had haunted the chair was not fully vanquished. It had merely been dormant, waiting for an opportunity to awaken once more. Jack took the piece of wood home, planning to carve it into a keepsake box for his wife. That night, strange things began to happen. The temperature in Jack's workshop dropped suddenly, and his tools moved on their own. Unseen eyes seemed to watch him, and a sense of unease settled over the room. "Must be my imagination. Just a cold draft," Jack muttered to himself, trying to shake off the eerie feeling. But the eerie occurrences continued. Lights flickered, shadows danced across the walls, and whispers filled the air. Jack's wife, Sarah, grew concerned as Jack became more obsessed with the wood, working late into the night, driven by an unseen force. "Jack, you need to stop. This isn't normal. Something's not right," Sarah said, her voice filled with worry. "I'm fine, Sarah. Just a little more work and it'll be done," Jack replied, distracted, his focus entirely on the piece of wood. One stormy evening, Sarah found Jack in the workshop, his eyes vacant, carving frantically. The room was filled with an oppressive darkness, and the piece of wood seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Desperate, Sarah tried to take the wood away, but Jack lashed out, his face contorted with rage. "Don't touch it, it's mine!" Jack shouted, his voice unrecognizable in its fury. Realizing the danger, Sarah ran to the local church, pleading for help. Father Michael, now an elderly man, listened to her story with growing alarm. He knew that the spirit had somehow survived and was now trying to reclaim its power. "We must act quickly. The spirit is trying to return. We need to destroy that piece of wood completely," Father Michael said gravely, his face set with determination. Father Michael, Sarah, and a few brave townspeople returned to the workshop. They found Jack unconscious on the floor, the carved box glowing with an eerie light. Together, they doused it in holy water and set it ablaze, watching as the fire consumed it, the spirit's screams echoing into the night. "Is it really over this time?" Sarah asked tearfully, her voice trembling. Yes, Sarah. The spirit is gone for good. But we must remain vigilant. Evil has a way of finding new forms. Father Michael nodded, his voice weary but firm. The spirit of the haunted chair was finally laid to rest, but the story of its curse lived on. It served as a cautionary tale, a reminder that some mysteries are best left undisturbed. The townspeople of Blanchester never forgot the lessons learned, always wary of the shadows that lurk at the edges of their peaceful town. And so, while the physical remnants of the chair were destroyed, the legend continued to haunt the town's history. For in the world of the supernatural, some mysteries never truly end. The tale of the haunted chair of Blanchester serves as a chilling reminder of the unknown forces that can lurk within the most ordinary of objects. From the moment it arrived at the Bindley Hotel, to the tragic accidents and desperate exorcisms, the chair's dark influence left a trail of fear and destruction. While the chair itself has been destroyed, its story lives on, a stark warning to all who hear it. Sometimes, objects carry more than just history. They can harbor dark spirits, waiting for the chance to wreak havoc on unsuspecting souls. So the next time you come across an old, seemingly innocuous piece of furniture, think twice before bringing it into your home, for who knows what unseen forces might be attached to it, waiting to unleash their terror once more. Stay vigilant, and remember, some mysteries are best left undisturbed. This story of the haunted chair is not just a legend, it's a lesson. Beware of the unknown, and always respect the power of the supernatural. For in the world of the paranormal, nothing is ever truly as it seems.